Yeah, I did get it. Because it's due on Monday. Monday? Yeah. That's why we don't have time.
Okay. Still, I'll double check later.
Happily living in that.
Oh, I have that. But she had like background. He had. Yeah. What do you think today? Will it be short or long? No? Oh my God. I told my wife that I thought it would be short. Can you present few for the James? Can you share some of his load? Yeah. Yeah, because he was not here last month. How are you getting? Budget? If you go max, they don't give you anything on that. They don't give you. Yeah. No, but for step. So they will not give you anything on that. Right. But do they come back and give you that?
Throw that bad boy on. It may be a small tree. He looks tired. What?
Well, they are pretty, they're comfortable too.
All right. I'll call the meeting to order of the Casa Grande Planning and Zoning Commission for March 7th, 2024. Please rise and join me for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can't sit down.
I know, right? It's just not complete.
Absolutely not.
Okay, let the record show everyone is present. All the commissioners are present. Any changes to the agenda?
No changes, Mr. Chair.
All right. Commissioners, we have a set of minutes, February 1st meeting,
Make a motion?
please.
Make a motion that we approve the minutes of the February 1st meeting.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Next on the agenda is our consent agenda. The items listed with an asterisk, there are two, E1 and E2. They will be enacted by, excuse me, one motion and one roll call vote to the commission. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless a commission member or a member of the public would like to hear a particular item, let us know which item it is, and we can pull it and have that full presentation done. All
Chairman,
right, yes,
I'd like to pull item E2.
E2.
I'll
All right.
second. Second?
No, she's, just need, anybody that wants it pulled, we can pull it.
Thank you.
Any others? There's only one other. Okay. Seeing none. Commissioners, I need a motion.
Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve item E1 of the consent agenda.
Okay, I have a motion
I'll second.
and a second for Chris. Let's see. Roll call. Thank you.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Thank you. Member Estrada?
Yes.
Vice Chair Garza?
Aye.
Chairman Benedict?
Yes. Okay, so that skips there. Now we're down to the public comment portion of the meeting. If there's anybody from the public who would like to comment on general topics, if not on not on a specific item that's on the agenda, those we will hear. We will hear when we have that item. But if there's anything of a general nature that you'd like to address, we'd like to hear from you. Yes. Please give us your name and address for the record.
Absolutely. My name is Mike Bergeron. I'm at 15 Breeze here in town. And this is more of a thank you for hearing myself and
Mike.
Mine's on.
Just push it up, Jim.
Yeah, sure thing. How about now? Better? My name is Mike Bergeron. I'm at 1585 East Desert Breeze. Thank you for hearing us today. I only have a few points to make. I've lived in Casa Grande continuously for 15 years. I have immediate concerns about the continued rezoning of PAD and allowing high-density housing to circumvent water standards set by Arizona law or regulation. We currently have hundreds of rental properties hundreds of individual plots for units, properties being built in Casa Grande that some say, when they are completed, is enough living space to represent 15 years of growth in our city. As a resident, I have grave concerns about this. When completed, these big commercial real estate businesses are likely to see rapid saturation of rentals that overly estimate the demand for such housing. Forecasting this out, I see some property managers having to lower rent to complete with lack of renters, additional strain on our In addition, additional strain to our already understaffed police department, furthering water usage problems, and an inability and already seen strain on our infrastructure such as roadways and grocery stores. My only intention today is to plead to the council to stop rezoning the land usage for high-density housing in our city. And I, along with everybody I've spoken to here in town, really feel the same need to just stop that rezoning. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have some general comments you'd like us to hear? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public comment portion of the meeting. Thank you very much for that. And next, we will hear the agenda item pulled from the consent agenda. We will consider a major site plan for 193 multifamily development at O'Neill and Center, DSA 2300237.
Alrighty, good evening, Commission.
Yeah.
So again, this request is for a major site plan. It's located at the southwest corner of O'Neill Drive and Center, approximately 600 feet east of Pinal Avenue. The site is zoned R3 and is, again, for 193-unit, three-story multifamily development with amenities including pool, clubhouse, storage units for the residents, as well as a trail along the perimeter. The density for the site comes out to approximately 21.78 dwelling units per acre. Oh, and here's the site plan there. Here's the review criteria covered in the staff report. I'll be covering the two highlighted items here. With regard to interrelationship between the plan elements and conditions both on and off the property. So you can see from the zoning map, there's various zoning surrounding the site, including light industrial and community services, I-1 and B4 to the west and south, R1 single family to the east, as well as R4 and PAD for manufactured home developments to the north. The site is proposing greater setbacks to the east adjacent to the single-family residence. So along with the structure of the apartments start at approximately 165 feet from the parcel boundary, and that it also has a 15-foot landscape buffer, as well as the proposed storage units that are 65 feet from the property boundary. This allows for, to help break up that three-story building there. And then along the north, they are meeting the required setbacks of R3, which is 20 feet, and that also includes a 15-foot landscape buffer. It is also separated by a collector roadway in O'Neill Drive, and it is also has additional landscaping of, two, as you can kind of see in the site, in the landscape plan, there are two rows of trees along the north border to help with that buffer as well. Regarding the existing anticipated traffic, a TIA was completed for the project. It does have the intersection of Pinal and O'Neill currently operating at a level service F. This development would increase the delays approximately 3 to 5%. However, due to the already failing intersection and the insignificant additional amount of traffic being added by this development, Public Works Department has agreed to install a traffic signal at this location and will be in the FY25 capital improvement project budget. That has not been approved yet, but it is in the budget currently. This intersection would bring the level of service to a level B in the AM as well, and level service C in the PM peak hours, and this meets the city's access management standards. Did want to kind of move into how this project fits into the framework of the recently done housing study that planning did. As you can see that, again, the site was already zoned multifamily and is in the multifamily mix. So this, if approved, would go into the approved category here. So it's already counted towards the total of the 4,235 units in that study. And then looking at the housing supply and need up until 2030. So if this is approved, this would, and constructed, this development would go towards meeting that need of 1,435 units by 2030. Regarding notification efforts, staff and applicant met all the requirements. I did not receive any inquiries or comments from the adjacent neighborhood or community. So with that, staff recommends moving to approve the major site plan request with the following conditions of approval and technical corrections. Happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
Chairman,
Yes.
Jacqueline answered my question with her presentation. It just wasn't located in the staff report, but it was mentioned that the traffic signal will get built in 25, and that's what I wanted to hear.
Is the subdivision, okay.
Go ahead.
Oh.
Sorry.
You're answering
No,
my
I'm sorry. I was recognizing you so you could speak.
Is this a
Apologize.
low to moderate housing project?
No, they're not. They're currently not using the low income tax housing credit. It will be market rate.
Okay.
other questions?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
if I could just add a little bit to the staff analysis. And Jacqueline, can you take me back to the first slide of the housing study? Thank you. So I just want to clarify, because we already had a speaker today, although he wasn't speaking on this particular project, talking about whether or not the need for additional multifamily housing. And that's certainly something that staff has been looking at very closely. And this is, of course, the two slides from the housing study that we presented to both Planning Commission and City Council back in, I believe, February. But the important thing to point out is, one, this site is already zoned for multifamily, so we're not rezoning anything here. And so in our study, the units that we identified that were already zoned at 2753, this site is in that category. If this major site plan is approved, it will simply move the number of units in this project, which is how many, Jacqueline?
193.
193 from that zoned category into the approved major site plan category. It will not increase the total amount of residential units that have planning entitlements. That 4235 number will remain the same. So I just wanted to point that out. And on the next slide, even with all the apartments that are under construction today, our data shows us that we need another 1,400 apartments to meet the citizens' needs between now and 2030. So everything that's under construction today will not meet our need for the next 15 years, won't even meet our need for the next 4 years, 5, 6 years. So we do need another 1,400 based on our population projections. And so these units that are would be constructed if this major site plan is approved would reduce that 1,400 number down to a lower number, minus the number of units that we're approving today. So I just wanted to put that in context for everyone, how this proposal really relates to our housing study data.
Very good.
Thank you.
Any
Nope, those were
other
mine.
questions, commissioners? Okay, this is not slated as a public hearing. Is the applicant here? Applicant or his representative, would you come up and talk to us a minute?
Yeah, I'm Sterling Pratt. So yeah, this is my project, and like was just said, that there's definitely a need in Casa Grande for the multifamily, and although we are at the average value, we'll be pricing these a little bit lower than kind of the average that is on the board right now.
Okay.
So.
Did we get name and address?
Oh, sorry, Sterling Pratt, and it's I'm at 1719 East Country Lane in Gilbert.
Thank you, appreciate it. We have to have it for the record. Okay, great, appreciate that. Anything else, any questions, commissioners, for him? Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate that. Okay, can I open it up to the public? Yep.
Can you? Or?
Yeah. Yeah. So this one does not require a public hearing, but I'd like to open to the public if anybody would like to address this particular issue. Please come forward, give us your name and address for the record.
I promise I was just going to sit here tonight, but I can't. Gloria Johnson Story, 1245 East Laurel Drive, Casa Grande, Arizona. I realize it's already multifamily, but why do we keep building these 3-story apartments within the residents that are 1-story? Our town is so cluttered with big buildings coming in. I just can't see putting up another 3-story apartment building. I understand if there's a need for apartments, although at the city council meeting, it said we'd met our apartment goal. So I don't know what happened there, but that was made in conjunction with another apartment building that was approved Monday night. So I just want to see if you can look at two-story apartments. It's just getting, our little city is looking like big city with all these high-rise buildings within the small one-story family homes. I don't know about you, but if it's in your neighborhood, even driving home from work on Quartzen and Treckle, those buildings tower pretty high. And I understand, I found out that's low income, which I know we need help with that, but please, can we stop this three-story building? And I realize it's beneficial to the developer because of cost and money, but the citizens are really, really not happy with three-story apartment buildings. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting, bring it back to the commission. Commissioners?
Chairman, I'll make a motion
Thank you.
to approve major site plan for the 193-unit multifamily DSA 23000237 with the conditions and corrections from staff.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Member Aldrete?
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden?
Yes.
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Member Estrada?
Yes.
Vice Chair Garza?
Aye.
Chairman Benedict?
Yes. Okay, motion passes. Next. Next on the agenda, we'll have a public hearing and to consider a conditional use permit and associated resolution for 900 square foot accessory structure DSA 24000018.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners. This is to hear DSA 24000018, 348 shop. The request is to hold a public hearing and consider a conditional use permit and associated resolution to allow 900 square foot accessory structure in the rear yard of an R1 CR zone property at 1348 East Verona Trail in the Tuscany subdivision. Here is the site location. A quick image of the site plan on the left and a style of building that is being proposed. It won't be this exact building, but something very similar. For an overview, the applicant is proposing a 30-foot wide, 30-foot long, and 11 feet, 11-inch high, 900 square foot hobby workshop in their rear yard. The building will be used for the recreational enjoyment of the applicant. The building will be painted to match the principal building, trim and base paint. The location of the building meets all required setbacks and is adjacent to an open space tract to the north and northeast of the property. So under the general considerations, no accessory building or garage for a single-family home shall occupy more than 25% of the rear yard, nor exceed 675 square feet of floor area, except that an accessory building or garage over 675 square feet of floor area may be allowed with a conditional use permit. Since this accessory structure is 900 square feet, it requires a conditional use permit. That's what brings us here tonight. Conformance with city code, that the site for the proposed use is adequate in size and topography to accommodate the use, that all yard spaces, walls and fences, parking, loading, and landscaping are adequate to properly relate to the use with the land and uses in the vicinity. This proposed accessory structure meets all required setbacks and building height requirements. The proposed location for the accessory structure is also adjacent to a green space tract to the north and to the northeast. The nearest adjacent property is 50 feet from the property. The nearest adjacent property to the north or northeast is approximately 50 feet from the property boundary. On the south side, there it is adjacent to another single-family property. that the site for the proposed use relates to streets and highways adequate in width and pavement type to carry the quantity and kind of traffic generated by the proposed use. The proposed use is for the personal enjoyment of the homeowner. There should not be any additional traffic generated with the addition of the proposed accessory structure. That the proposed use will have no adverse effect upon the abutting property. The proposed structure will be painted to match the principal structure, and it meets all required setbacks. The rear of the subject property is adjacent to a 50-foot width open space track, which helps creating compatibility with surrounding properties. There should be no adverse effects upon the abutting properties. That the proposed use shall be in conformance with the general plan. The property is classified as neighborhoods in the general plan. The neighborhoods classification allows for single-family homes and associated accessory use. And then that the conditions stated in the approval are deemed necessary to protect the public health, safety, and general welfare. Staff recommends the following conditions to protect the public health, safety, and welfare as presented in the conditional use permit resolution. The first is the maximum size for the accessory structure shall be no larger than 900 square feet. The structure shall not be utilized nor improved as a second dwelling unit or as a home occupation unless otherwise specifically authorized via a separate approval process. The color of the structure shall match and complement the existing home. The structure shall not exceed the height of the principal building. Any utilities running through the site or any utilities that need to be relocated for development of the site must be placed underground. All public notification requirements were met, and staff has not received any comments about this proposal. At this time, staff recommends that Planning and Zoning Commission approve DSA 24-00018 as a conditional use permit for an accessory structure greater than 675 square feet with the following conditions, which I spoke to earlier. Any questions?
Chairman, a quick question.
Yes, go
Sam,
ahead.
did the applicant get the approval from his homeowners association?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Just curious, I didn't see it.
Okay. Anything else for staff? Okay, would the applicant or their representative like to address the commission? Okay. See him? So I will open the public portion of the meeting. Anybody from the public like to address this issue, please come forward. Seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and bring it back to the commission.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Thank you.
Make a motion that the commission approve DSA-24-00018 conditional use permit for accessory structure greater than 675 square feet with the conditions provided by staff.
Great. Got a motion?
Second.
Got a second? Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Member Autret?
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden?
Yes.
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Member Estrada?
Yes.
Vice Chair Garza?
Aye.
Chairman Benedict?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, next we'll have a public hearing to consider a request by Tiffany Sherrill for a conditional use permit located at 937 South Rough Cut Drive, DSA 23-00266. James.
This request, as you introduced, is for a conditional use permit for a manufactured home. The site is within the far southeastern area of the community off of Rough Cut Road, just south of Hermosa Vista. The property is zoned rural ranch, which allows one dwelling unit per lot. As a conditional use permit, manufactured homes are allowed. And the applicant is seeking just that, a CUP to place a 2,000 square foot manufactured home on a vacant 3-acre lot. This home would replace a manufactured home that was on the site prior to the property's annexation into the city in 2008. The city code requires that rural ranch zone properties have a minimum lot width of 300 feet and a minimum lot size of 3.3 acres. And when we looked at it, we discovered that the lot is actually shy of that width and lot size. But in February of this year, the Board of Adjustment did approve a lot size exception, allowing for this lot to be buildable. So now it is in front of Planning Commission for consideration of the placement of a manufactured home. This is an aerial view. I apologize for kind of the blurriness of it, but this shows you, it's probably from several years ago where you could see the former older manufactured house on that site. It will be replaced with a much newer home in a more ideal location on the lot. When reviewing the code criteria for conditional use permits, the criteria that you see on the screen gets evaluated and it is reflected in your staff report. I just want to talk about these highlighted items. The first item is that this property is adequate in size, shape, etc. to accommodate the use. As you see, at 3 acres in size, it can easily accommodate the placement of this manufactured home. And the front setback is 20 feet, the side setbacks are 10, the rear setback is 40. So this home clearly meets all of those, and it does not exceed the maximum building height of 28 feet. Another criteria is that there are to be adequate roadways to accommodate the use. Rough Cut Road actually exists north and south of this property as a access easement that's 60 feet wide. However, in preparation for this request, the applicant did receive approval and did do a map of dedication, thereby dedicating 20 feet of roadway for public right-of-way as well as a 12-foot utility easement. And the idea is as properties to the north and south of the site redevelop, we will continue to have public right-of-way dedications to replace that public easement. And the other condition I want to talk about is, or criteria, is that there are to be conditions to protect safety, health, and general welfare. So in looking at this request for a manufactured home, there's 3 recommended special conditions to achieve the safety, health, and general welfare criteria. The first recommended condition is that an approved zoning clearance is required prior to the placement of the manufactured home. The second is that this property is limited to 1 single-family dwelling. The last condition is that this manufactured home is to be used as a single-family dwelling. Regarding the notification efforts, the notification procedures met that which is required by code, and there were not any comments received associated with this request. Staff makes a recommendation that Planning Commission moves to approve this conditional use permit and its associated resolution, subject to the special conditions as stated. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, staff. Any questions for staff? Commissioners? No? Would the applicant or their representative like to speak to the commission? Okay. So at this point, I will open the public portion of this meeting and for this issue, and anybody from the public like to address this issue, please come forward. Seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting, bring it back to the commission.
Mr. Commissioner, make a
Yes,
motion?
Please.
I recommend that we approve the conditional use permit and associate resolution DSA 2300266 for the placement of the home at 937 South Rough Cut Drive, subject to the 3 conditions below that staff talked about.
Second.
Go ahead. Motion and a second to approve 00256. Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Member Aldred?
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden?
Yes.
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Member Estrada?
Yes.
Vice Chair Garza?
Aye.
Chairman Benedict?
Yes. Okay. we'll move on. So I think we have next to hold a public hearing, consider a recommendation to council for a request by Wilderwood Properties for zone from B4 to I1. DSA 24-00021. James again?
All right. I'll be with you here till the rest of the night.
Oh, I love it.
Let's make it a short one.
Glad somebody is.
So get cozy. So as you introduce this item, it is for a zone change. The property is located at the northwest corner of Jimmy Kerr and Sunland Gin. It's approximately 40 acres in size, and it's currently zoned B4, which is considered a heavy commercial, super light industrial type zoning. The request is to change that 40 acres of property to I1, which is considered light industrial. The request for the zone change is primarily to accommodate a wider array of uses that are determined to be appropriate for the area to attract warehousing and distribution development, as is occurring on the other side of Jimmy Kerr within the Confluence Industrial Park. When reviewing zone changes, there are criteria that get evaluated, and I'm going to go over those criteria with you. They primarily have to deal with the general plan and its conformance with the general plan. So this property sits within the commerce and business general plan category, which does support I1 zoning. And then another criteria indicates that the rezone needs to be in conformance with and be consistent with following goals, policies, and applicable elements. So that does speak to goal CB1 within the general plan that says develop economically competitive regional centers of commercial activity, and an associated action step with that is to promote a wider range of uses than traditional commercial areas. And it does indicate including industrial sites. As a commerce and business designated property, an I1 zone is appropriate due to the proximity of the railroad that lies to the south of Jimmy Kerr and other nearby industrial development. Another action step associated with that goal is to provide or to promote a balance of uses within individual commercial areas to create a more resilient economy. So this is an opportunity to have a mixture of zone districts to allow for a variety of complementary uses. As I'll show you on the map here upcoming, you'll see that although there is I1 in the area to the south of Jimmy Kerr, there's other zone districts nearby that are remaining in that B4 zoning. And then as far as the applicable elements, I want to talk about guiding principle number 2. Community growth should be driven by industrial development in part. And so the I1 zoning will create opportunity for well-positioned land to develop into uses that can attract employment. Another criteria talks about the proposal needs to conform to densities and intensities that are appropriate. So within the commerce and business, there is a maximum floor area ratio of 0.35. So what that basically means is relatively little at the time of rezoning, to be honest with you. It would come into play at the next step of their entitlement process. Should this zoning be approved, an applicant would have to come forward with a major site plan, and we would ensure that the buildings proposed on that major site plan are within that max floor area ratio of 0.35. There's another general plan criteria that indicates that at least 10% of open space is to be provided. So that would be another thing that we would look at to ensure is occurring on that site plan. The last criteria is that the proposed zone change is necessary and proper at this time to meet the land use needs of the residents of the city. So the I-1 zone district is considered appropriate and necessary to serve the area with the ever-growing demand for light industrial sites next to freeway interchanges. This is the slide I was referencing where you could see the surrounding zone districts. So you do have some existing B4 zoning to the northwest and southeast, and you do have I-1 zoning on the other side of Jimmy Kerr. However, in terms of overall compatibility, there is some concern about the fact that to the north is residentially zoned property. You have a small urban ranch parcel there towards the northwest end, and then you have R4 both to the north and to the east. And so in evaluating the appropriateness of the zoning and its adjacency to this residentially zoned property, staff is recommending a number of conditions to help with compatibility. And the conditions reflected in your staff report have been slightly modified to capture more of a succinct intention, and it just provides some clarification. It doesn't really add much to it, but I will go over these 6 conditions. So the first one is just that standard condition regarding the requirement for right-of-way dedication if we need it prior to when development is to occur on that site. So there is the potential to receive right-of-way for both Sunland Gin and Jimmy Kerr if necessary. And then the other conditions really do talk about screening and design and ensuring that the development looks good. The second criteria requires that transformers and utility boxes, etc., are to be painted or screened to complement the building. The third criteria requires a 15-foot landscape buffer around the perimeter of the zoning, so that will help with the relationship between it and adjacent properties. The fourth condition has been slightly modified to be worded now to say exterior storage of goods and materials as well as loading areas shall be screened from view from adjacent properties and rights of way. And the fifth criteria has been slightly reworded to say elevations adjacent to street frontages or residential uses shall provide basically architectural interest. And this would be more honed in at the time of the major site plan. The sixth criteria basically entails a situation where if not all 40 acres of the property is purchased by a developer, let's say 8 of the 40 acres is purchased, this condition would require a concept plan to be provided to show how the remnant of the property is going to get access and how it can be feasibly developed, just so that we can ensure that the different pieces of that 40 acres can come together cohesively. Regarding the notification process, the notification met that which is required by the city code. There was one inquiry received a couple of days ago from a Robeson Ranch resident. They didn't express necessarily opposition nor support for it, but they were just inquiring what the yellow sign was. So staff does recommend that Planning Commission forward to City Council a recommendation to approve the zone change request from B4 to I1, subject to these following conditions of record that I have discussed with you this evening. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Commissioners, any questions?
Just one.
Yes, sir.
So the improvements, Jim, to Sunland Gin Road on the opposite side of the improvements, they'll be discussed on the next plan that comes to us?
Correct. At the time of development, we would look at right-of-way dedication for Sunland Gin, and then and what's kind of commonplace is they would be obligated to do half-street improvements along Sunland Gin.
Okay.
But we wouldn't know the extent of those half-street improvements until we knew the scope and scale of the development being proposed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Would the applicant or their representative like to come forward and address the commission on this issue? Wow. Okay. All right. So I'll open the public portion of the meeting for this issue. Anybody from the public like to address this issue, please come forward. Seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and bring it back to the commission.
Chairman, I'll make a motion
Thank you.
to approve, thank you, forward a recommendation of approval to City Council for DSA 00021 from B4 to I1 with the following conditions of record.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Member Aldrete?
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden?
Yes.
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Member Estrada?
Yes.
Vice Chair Garza?
Aye.
Chairman Benedict?
Yes. Okay, next we'll hold a public hearing and consider a request from Palmer Architects for a zone change from B1 to R3 and Senior Residence PAD to allow for commercial and age-restricted multifamily uses for DSA 2300146. On with the James Show.
All right. Happy to be here. So as you indicated, this is a rezone request for property that currently is, part of it is zoned R3, multifamily, and then the majority of the property is zoned B1, which is neighborhood commercial. This site is approximately 6 acres in size. It's L-shaped, and it's at the northeast corner of Cottonwood and Peart. The proposal is to rezone that R3 and B1 designation into the Mary T. Marketplace and Senior Residences PAD. It would allow both multifamily and mixed-use commercial. Here's the preliminary development plan that was provided by the applicant, and I'll walk through what is planned for these 6 acres. So towards the south end of the site along Cottonwood is the mixed-use area. It would be comprised of 2 buildings, about 15,600 square feet each, and they would both be 36 feet tall. The first story of these buildings would be for commercial uses. The PAD does list the various uses permitted. Now, I want to remind Planning Commission that this area is currently zoned B1. So the commercial uses being proposed in this area, by and large, are similar to what that B1 would already allow. However, B1 is fairly limiting, but within this PAD, it is suggesting there to be a variety of uses: general office, medical office, retail, restaurant, up to a maximum square footage of restaurants. And then the second and third stories of this building would be comprised of age-restricted apartment residences. And so within these 2 buildings, there would be a total of 44 units. And of those 44 units, 32 would be 1-bedroom and 12 would be 2-bedroom. I do want to note that the PAD guide indicates that the second and third stories would be recessed from the first, so there would be a little bit of a step back. So visually, although it's 36 feet in height, it minimizes the visibility. As you can kind of see, this is just a rough conceptual drawing. but based on the perspective, you almost don't see what you think is the second floor is actually the third floor because it's recessed. And then the residential component of the PAD is comprised of one building that would also be a maximum height of 36 feet. It's also 3 stories, but within this building would be 33 senior residences, and it is to be comprised of 24 one-bedroom units and 2 9-bedroom units. When reviewing PAD zones, this is the list of criteria that gets evaluated, and the staff report goes into these in greater detail. I would just like to talk about the highlighted items. The first one is interrelationship to the plan elements both on and off the property. So firstly, I'd like to mention that this site is bordered by 2 principal arterial roads. Cottonwood and Peart are both principal arterials in this location, with an ultimate width of 140 feet wide. And there's multifamily zoning in 3 directions. Caliche is zoned multifamily, and there's multifamily to the north, and then the existing Mary T development is also zoned R3 multifamily. And then you have commercial zoning to the south and southwest, and on the other side of Peart, of course, you have the build-to-rent development. So it's the existing Mary T product that probably has the largest compatibility concern, since it's single story, and it's going to be, this proposal's 3 stories, and it's going to be situated next to those single story rental units. However, this property would be under the same ownership, or it's at least being presented to us by the same owner. And the proposed buildings within this PAD will be over 100 feet away from those 1-story buildings. Additionally, when applying residential design standards for planned area developments, it calls for a 15-foot landscape buffer adjacent to that area, so there will be some softening. The other criteria that I want to talk about is conformance with the general plan. The area is located within the community corridor designation. Within the community corridor, sites of any size can be proposed for multifamily development up to a density of 25 dwelling units per acre. Now whether they get 25 dwelling units per acre or fewer is going to be dependent upon the particular zone district being requested. Changes in zoning classification are for the purpose of meeting the land use needs of the residents of the city in conformance with the general plan. And so that does segue into talking about that housing needs and supply study that Jacqueline and Paul referenced with the other case this evening. As you know, that housing needs and supply study determined that the city has an adequate supply of multifamily for a number of years. However, staff contends that this proposal does meet a community need. Firstly, this is proposing to be age-restricted, so age-restricted multifamily product is in shorter supply than non-age-restricted product. And then also, a portion of this lot is already zoned R3. And if that R3 area were to develop, in the R3 zone, you can have up to 21 dwelling units per acre. However, the overall gross density of this site, incorporating the B1 portion of the lot, with a total of 77 dwelling units, would yield 12 dwelling units per acre. So essentially, by approving this to go into a PAD zone this evening would result, ironically, in fewer dwelling units per acre than if there were not to be a zone change and someone simply went forward with a major site plan to propose development within the portion that's zoned R3. The next part of the conformance with the general plan deals with the general plan goals and action steps. So one particular goal talks about promoting diverse business, retail, and office uses in community corridor areas. An action step that does address this is we are to encourage mixed use, which is exactly what this is, commercial and retail structures, to create a higher density of uses along major corridors. Another goal is to promote high-density residential uses along urban corridors and near major commercial centers, and encourage higher density residential development on infill sites and along key corridors. And then use multifamily housing products to meet housing demand while encouraging the conservation of water resources. So the other criteria that I want to talk about is the impact of the plan on existing and anticipated traffic. So with a PAD, we ordinarily do not get a traffic impact analysis. That comes at the time of the major site plan. And the applicant is aware of that, and that will have to be evaluated to determine the adequacy of the plan proposed and any sort of necessary changes to the roadway that may need to be made. However, the city traffic engineer did evaluate this conceptual plan that was provided with the PAD with respect to the proposed driveway onto the location of the site. This parcel is access challenged because it can't meet the access driveway standards due to the existing conditions. But Peart and Cottonwood are already constructed with 2 travel lanes in each direction and a left and right turn lanes on both streets in each direction. It also has full dedication of their half streets. So it is well prepared to accommodate additional development on that lot. This describes what I mean here about there being some access challenges. So where the proposed driveway into the site would be approximately 500 feet from the Peart intersection. That does not meet our access standards. Ordinarily, it would need to be at least 660 feet. However, if you put that driveway any more east, it would start to crowd the existing driveway into the existing Mary T site. So what you see presented here is a good compromise in that it provides an adequate distance from the intersection so there can still remain the right turn lane for Peart, and it's spaced far enough away from the existing driveway that can ensure a dedicated right turn lane for into the site. The next criteria that I want to talk about is parking. So the PAD proposes a total of 245 parking spaces, and for the residential component of the PAD, it does follow the city code, which is 1 parking space is required per every 1 bedroom unit. For every 2 or more bedroom units, 1.75 spaces are required, and then 1 guest space for every 5 units. So with 77 units and based on their 1 and 2 bedroom mix, that would require the need for 110 parking spaces. However, the PAD proposes a deviation in how the commercial parking is calculated. And there had been some discussion with the applicant on how best to reflect their intent. But basically, as they're currently proposing, they are proposing to take 15% of the floor area out of the calculation, because that would account for hallways, restrooms, storage areas, things that aren't otherwise generating parking. And then use the net square footage, or 85% of the commercial space, to determine the parking allocation for various commercial uses. For example, in our city code, restaurants require 1 parking space per 150 square feet. Medical offices is 1 space per 200 square feet. And so they demonstrated on the plan that the parking can be met with taking 15% off of the gross. They are also proposing to limit the total square footage of restaurants to 4,994 square feet, and they're also proposing to limit medical office space. either which way, there's 135 parking spaces available to accommodate for the commercial uses. However, staff is modifying our recommended conditions that were in the staff report to reflect something much easier. So we're actually recommending 2 technical modifications. The first one is to revise the PAD guide and plan to note that the commercial parking requirement will be at 1 parking space per 250 square feet. That just makes it really easy because restaurants and medical office uses are more restrictive than that, but there's a lot of other uses that are less restrictive. So 1 per 250 is a really good middle of the road number. We do still recommend that they limit medical office and restaurant square footage. However, the second technical modification speaks to revising the PAD guide and plan to specify square footage limitations on the restaurant and medical uses because it currently restricts the medical to a percentage of floor area, so that gets a little bit confusing. So regarding the public notification for this request, it met what the code requires. Staff did not receive any comments as a part of the notification efforts. Staff does recommend that Planning Commission move to forward to City Council a recommendation to approve the Mary T. Marketplace and Senior Residences PAD, subject to the 2 technical modifications I discussed. And I'd be happy to answer any questions for you.
Very good. Commissioners, any questions for staff? Okay.
Chairman, I have a question.
Yes.
I have all the questions tonight. The commercial uses on the first floor, James, is a bar an option?
Yes.
So we're going to have senior living on top of a bar that's open till 1 or 2 in the morning?
We wouldn't know the hours of it because it would, but my guess is it's going to be under a same property manager, so they're going to probably recruit a use of mixes that are compatible with the tenants.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it seems like a great concept for, younger folks. Mixed use, this type of use. I was trying to see if that was one of the limitations as far as the commercial on the first floor.
Close at 5.
Okay.
Yeah, businesses that close at 5 because they're trying to get some sleep. But, yeah.
Okay.
But they'd have to get approved.
Any other questions for staff? Seeing none, the applicant or their representative like to speak to this issue.
That's David. David.
Good evening, members of the council. My name's Jerry Palmer. I'm with Palmer Architects, and we are the designers of this project.
Excuse me, can you give us the address just for the record? Give us your address just for the record.
My office is located at 4545 North 36th Street, Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay, thank you.
And I've been working with Mary T., who has had the Mary T. Villas directly to the east of this for 40 years. And working with her on a number of projects. She specializes, her family's done senior care, not only her lifetime, but her mother started it as a nurse. So she has a history of really focusing on seniors. And she came to me with the idea of this mixed-use facility that would complement not only the existing facility itself, but her adjacent project and Kalichi Senior Care, where we could service a lot of the seniors with commercial uses. And those commercial uses could be a whole variety of items, not only offices, but medical care, some smaller restaurants, travel agencies, things of that nature. So I think we could really create a very interesting facility that would have a lot of uses right on the property without having to travel far, and pull in Caliche and pull in Mary T's existing project. So our goal was to create this. What's somewhat unusual about this design is if you look at the top floor, Jim, could you go back to the rendering? On top of that, you can see where the umbrella is. There's an 8th Mile walking track that's on that floor. And that would be an opportunity, the units, there's 2 apartment stories above it, and they either have decks or they have decks on this walking area where we're trying to interact and create a community of seniors. They can sit out on the porch and they can discuss with other people at the building or other people that are shopping in the area, and create a situation of interactive facility that you can really get a good impact on with this mixed-use type process. So anyways, I think Jim was very thorough in his explanation of what we're planning. I'd be glad to answer any questions that anyone might have. Please let me know.
Great, thank you. Commissioners, any questions?
Chairman, I have a question.
Yes, please.
Jerry, have you designed this type of product anywhere else in the valley?
Yeah, I've done quite a bit of...
With the senior age restrictions, mixed use?
Fewer. Yeah, we've done a lot of multifamily. And quite frankly, this is my first one with the commercial use, mixed use underneath it. Usually it's independent, and we have a planned community, and we have a commercial center. So that's where this project's unique. We've done probably a dozen projects in Casa Grande over the past 30 years. And I have numerous multifamily projects planned, resort communities that we've worked on over my 40 plus years as an architect.
Okay. Any other questions? Good. Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
that. Very helpful.
Thanks.
Oh, I do have a question for you.
Yes.
The conditions and see, there were some adjustments and all. Are you all good with the conditions as presented?
Yeah, I have no problem with them. I think it actually, on the parking side of it, reduces the parking slightly over what we proposed, but we do have excess parking, so that's good.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Now I'd like to open the public portion of the meeting regarding this issue. Anybody from the public like to address this, please come on up. Please give us your name and address for the record.
I'm Catherine Aiken. I live at 2937 North Pecan Avenue in Casa Grande. In terms of the parking spaces, since you're proposing this for older adults, do the parking spaces accommodate people with limited mobility issues?
Okay, so with...
Like, are the parking spaces going to be adequate enough for people who have limited mobility, given that you're marketing this to an aging population?
Sure, but I hear your question. This is not really a place where we would answer the questions, and this will come up again when they present the actual master plan, which will address that issue much more directly.
Okay.
All right?
Sorry, this is my first time, so I don't really know what.
No problem, please, thank you. We appreciate you coming up.
Okay.
We sure appreciate hearing from you. Anybody else like to address this issue? Seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting, bring it back to the commission.
Chairman, I have one more question.
Yes.
Jim, is there a secondary access to the site plan? Is it in the existing Mary T property?
Great question, because you know what? I meant to point it out, and then when I wrapped up the presentation, I was like, oh, I missed it. There is emergency access through Caliche. If you look, there's a little tiny arrow black arrow there. It's actually an existing access easement right now. So it would be for emergency only, but it would provide that second point of ingress and egress.
Thanks.
Okay, so I have to come in through the front. Okay? Anything else? What's your pleasure, Commissioners?
I'd like to make a motion.
Thank you.
I'd like to forward a recommendation to the City Council for a request by Palmer Architects for a zone change from B1 and R3 to PAD. And that is covered under DSA-23-00146 with the
Yep, there's some.
okay, with the technical modifications provided by staff.
Very good. All right.
Second.
And a second for Garrett. Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Member Aldret?
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden?
Yes?
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Member Estrada?
Yes.
Vice Chair Garza?
Aye.
Chairman Benedict?
Yes, thank you. We appreciate Mary T. and all that she's been to the community, and we're excited to see how this project moves forward. Okay. Next, we'll consider a request from Rick Engineering for 10 acres, northeast corner of McCartney and Palomino. A major site plan and a final landscape plan, DSA 23-00251 and 00257.
All right, so there are two applications in front of you this evening for your consideration. The first being a major site plan for Flats 387, multifamily development at the northeast corner of McCartney and Palomino. And the second request under for your consideration is a final landscape plan. So the site is 10.33 acres, and as shown on this major site plan are 5 multifamily structures, all being 3 stories, 35 feet in height, for a total of 204 units. And within those buildings, there is a composition of various studio, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom units. The site also proposes a clubhouse, pickleball area, and swimming pool. There is a total of 341 parking spaces provided on the site, and the community would be gated, and it would be surrounded by a 6-foot-tall perimeter fence. On the street frontage, it would be half block, 3-foot block with 3-foot rail, and then on the other elevations, it would just be solid block. Here's an excerpt of the elevations. Now, this top left picture is from the existing flats development in Maricopa, so it would probably look very similar to that, as well as an elevation rendering there on the bottom right. And then this is an example of a typical 2-bedroom apartment unit. It's approximately 1,000 square feet, to show you what types of internal amenities are being proposed. And then the other request is for the final landscape plan, and I'll be going over the criteria that we use to evaluate that as well. A little bit of history and background is this site had been entitled for commercial uses, but it did go through a recent PAD amendment that both Planning Commission and Council approved. It received its final approval in early January by City Council, and it was amended as a multifamily area. as far as the criteria that gets looked at for major site plans, this is what requires evaluation, and the staff report addresses all of these in greater detail, but I just want to talk about the highlighted ones. The first is conformance with the general plan. So this area is within the neighborhoods general plan category. Neighborhoods is primarily intended for residential and low-density residential. However, it does allow sites up to 20 acres to be high-density residential up to 24 dwelling units per acre. The flats proposal is under that at 19.74 dwelling units per acre. And then another aspect of the neighborhood's general plan category is that no more than 20% of the neighborhood's land use area, which is the area in yellow, within a half-mile radius shall be used for medium or high-density residential developments, or medium for that matter. So within a half mile of this property, there are 2 other sites designated for multifamily within the neighborhood's land use category. A 10-acre site sits within the McCartney Center PAD itself, and then there's a 25-acre medium-density residential site proposed catty corner. However, when adding up the total acreage, about 9% of the area is designated for multifamily, whereas 20% would be the max. With regard to adequacy of the plan with respect to land use, we have to look at the community need here. This project was identified as part of the potential multifamily supply within the housing needs and supply study presented to Planning Commission and Council late last year. Staff does feel that this request is supportable with regard to multifamily development because this site had already been factored into the total projected multifamily housing supply needed to meet the community's needs. In other words, we had already factored that we were going to be getting 204 units at this area when we did this study, and the zoning has already been approved for this property. The major site plan will provide the opportunity to ensure that this development meets city code requirements and is designed in a manner that is as compatible as possible to other existing and planned developments. And that segues into the interrelationship with plan elements on and off the property. So when we look at this site, I first want to point out that you do have single-family development both to the north and to the west. However, to the west, it is separated by Palomino Parkway, which is a minor arterial road. And between the parkway and the single-family homes is a large drainage channel to provide separation and buffering. And to the north, it's much the same in that for the westernmost 650 feet of the property, it is flanked by an open space area belonging to the single-family neighborhood, and that area is used for retention. So it largely comes down to the eastern 250 feet of the property. It's probably the most sensitive because there are 5.5 lots that back up onto this area. So firstly, one thing that should be noted is that these homes that back onto this area are all single story. Why that's considered an advantage is that if they were 2 stories, then the view out of their second story windows would be impacted more so by any development that occurs to the south of them along McCartney. But the other thing to keep in mind is that with the approval of the PAD and what we factored in at that time is a setback to accommodate that and to put that into consideration. So there's a 98-foot building setback between the rear property boundary of the single-family area and the structures within McCartney or within the flats. And there's a 25-foot landscape buffer along that boundary to provide some softening of the site. The other criteria that I want to talk about is the impact of the plan on the existing and anticipated traffic and parking conditions. So the a TIA was provided, traffic impact analysis, with this development to determine what type of improvements may be necessary to ensure that the level of service of roadways aren't taken below a D. If they fell at an E or F, improvements would be required. So firstly, the plan is designed to provide full access to the site via Palomino Parkway. The access was put onto Palomino Parkway to save there being any sort of drive access directly onto the site from McCartney. McCartney is always going to be a busier road because it's a principal arterial versus Palomino being a minor arterial, and it has an interchange with the highway. There's a lot of traffic, higher speeds, and so we didn't want to interrupt the traffic flow unnecessarily by putting drive access directly from McCartney. But with that, there will be a 70-foot right-of-way dedication of property along McCartney, because this is a principal arterial, so there will be dedication of land to meet the right-of-way necessary to make roadway improvements. This is looking at along McCartney looking west, and Palomino's on the right, so to the right's north. Right now, what you're looking at is just a half street. And so if you notice on the other side of Palomino, there's additional asphalt that was added because it does parallel developed area, but it's not currently striped beyond just one lane in each direction because of the fact that there isn't development adjacent to the flats area. So with flats developing, you are going to get right-of-way dedication and extra asphalt to accommodate a couple of things. So firstly, the TIA does necessitate that a traffic signal be constructed at Palomino and McCartney, and that would be a requirement of the developer to put in. Now, they could potentially apply for impact fee offsets if they can demonstrate that they're not wholly responsible for the need. If the need was already there, we could look at crediting them a portion of the cost of that traffic signal. But they're also going to do some restriping in addition and adding some extra asphalt, in that there will now be a dedicated left turn lane if you're going on eastbound McCartney for northbound Palomino. And so any traffic turning northbound onto Palomino from eastbound McCartney has its own dedicated turn lane. And then there will still continue to be one through lane for now going westbound on McCartney. However, there will be a dedicated right turn lane to go northbound on Palomino. And there's extra asphalt for additional restriping in the near future. The city does have a CIP project in the works to do McCartney Road improvements from Pinnell to I-10, and so that will ensure that there will be 2 lanes in each direction in that stretch, and then also dedicated right turn lanes at appropriate places. And so some of these improvements that you're seeing here are interim, but they're providing the asphalt necessary for the restriping to occur so that there is ultimately 2 lanes in each direction. And then the access into the site via Palomino will have its dedicated right turn lane as well. As far as the final landscape plan, the review criteria for that is pretty short. Ordinarily, final landscape plans are administratively reviewed, but in this case, it was provided with the major site plan. So Planning Commission has an opportunity to be the authority on that. And there's basically 4 things that we look at when reviewing final landscape plans. So there's street frontage landscaping, on-site landscaping, and then evaluating whether the landscaping provided meets the P80 residential design standards. And then there's a city code requirement for so much open space. So the site does provide for a total of 40% open space, where the minimum required is 20. And then This site is accommodating for the necessary required landscape buffers around the perimeter as required per the PAD residential design standards. But I do want to point out a couple things, such as on the on-site portion of the landscaping, the code requires 204 trees and 408 shrubs, and that's based on the number of units. And the plan's showing well over that with 273 trees and 1,369 shrubs. And then, of course, the site will be required to remain in compliance with the approved final landscape plan. So anything that ultimately gets displaced or dies will have to ultimately be replaced to meet this number. Regarding the notification process, we followed that which is required by code. I do want to point out that the zoning for this property occurred not all that long ago, and the applicant did at that time do their own public outreach where they had canvassed neighboring property owners. We did not receive much input during the rezoning process, but we did receive a letter from the HOA at the time supporting the rezoning. But as a result of the notification for the major site plan, we did receive 2 emails. One was recently received, so you didn't get it in your packet, but it was passed out to you before this meeting. But essentially, the emails received basically expressed concern about how much traffic is on both McCartney and Peart, and it's recommended that improvements to those roads really should be done before any new development occurs, because it already is bottlenecking, et cetera. And then another comment had just basically indicated that they didn't want multifamily nearby their site. They didn't buy their home to be nearby multifamily development. But with that, staff is recommending that Planning Commission approve the major site plan, subject to the condition that the traffic signal at Palomino be installed and operational prior to the issuance of C of O. And then we are also recommending approval of the final landscape plan. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, commissioners, questions for staff? No questions, okay. All right, so would the applicant or their representative like to come forward, please? Great.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Larry Lazarus. My office is at 206 East Virginia, Phoenix, Arizona. Thank you. With me today is Arthur Walston, Entitlements Manager for Z Modular. Also Nathan Landerville, who is with the STG Design Architects, as well as Michelle Green, my Senior Land Use Planner in my office. We do have a short presentation, but we're really here to answer any questions that you have. So if you've already heard the presentation last November, I believe, October 5th, we did do the amendment to the PAD. You heard it. The site plan has not changed since then. I would only indicate that, and City Council did in their hearing in November 20th also pass the PAD amendment. I'm not going to go through the full presentation here. I just want to make a couple of comments. One is that we did have a substantial neighborhood outreach, much greater than you would have just through notification. We went and knocked on 71 doors on the property, the homeowners to our north, directly adjacent to it. We also had a site visit and to our property in Maricopa. The neighbors did come to that site visit, toured an existing property, which is going to be similar, if not the same, as the one we're talking about. One of the members who actually lives within that 250 feet adjacent to it was also there. They were all supportive. One of the questions they had was, what's the quality going to look like? And obviously, we showed them some of the in fact, I may show you a couple slides real quick about the quality of the development. They were very supportive after they saw that. In fact, one said, this beats having commercial trucks backing into my neighborhood. It makes more sense. The setbacks, as we indicated, you might go to the second. Setbacks, as been indicated, while it's only required to have 50 feet, we're having 95 feet from that neighborhood. Substantial amount of landscaping, as you've already heard, for a visual buffer. The amenities, as we said, outdoor kitchen, outdoor pool. There will be a clubhouse, a theater simulator within the clubhouse that will give you opportunity to, the residents' opportunity to work out. As well as a walking trail around the property. There will be 34 EV parking spaces, 10% for electric cars. And the rendering that you saw earlier, this one, gives you an idea what it will look like. It'll have a modern appeal, architectural embellishments, decorative balcony screens and canopies. There are a couple additional slides in here that give you an idea what it looks like very quickly. And I think that covers it. You heard most of this in the last hearing, but I just wanted to refresh your recollection. Thank you very much.
Okay, any questions?
I just have one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
You said the site plan's not changing, but I believe you guys rearranged the dog park and the dumpsters, right?
Yes, we did.
Okay, just making sure.
And you had a question last time, if I remember correctly, about the pickleball court?
No, I was just making a comment on the.
Oh, okay. Well, the pickleball court is well away from the
You
neighborhood.
moved it, thank you.
Oh, you did, I'm sorry. Excuse me. We did improve that.
Okay. Anything else, commissioners? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. So now I'd like to open the public portion of the meeting to address this issue. Anybody from the public like to address it, please come forward. Give us your name and address for the record. And if you could, stay within our 3-minute guideline. And
If I run out of 3 minutes, do I have to start arguing with my wife? My name is.
I'm not going to deal with how you pass off. That's not where I'm going to go.
My name is Corey Emerson. I'm at 1592 East Chaparral Drive. And I'll give this gentleman credit. As far as the site plan and stuff, it looks pretty damn good. So I appreciate the lights and all that stuff. But I do have some concerns. One of them is the 3-story buildings. I don't think you should ever allow 3-story buildings to butt up against the neighborhood. Just think about coming out in the morning with a cup of coffee and your dog in your backyard, looking for the sunrise and looking across the street and having everybody looking in your backyard at you. How many of you people actually want to do that? I don't even like living next to 2-story homes because they can look into the privacy of your own home. You might as well fly drones over your house. I think you really need to, there's too much open space in Casa Grande to put 3-story buildings into a neighborhood where people can look in other people's backyards. I think it's invasion of privacy. I will be honest, I don't think there's enough parking spaces there, but they're within the code. I'm not going to argue with that one. But you know, they're talking about, developers talking about this widening of McCarthy Road. And it's like Yogi Berra always said, it's not over till it's over. We don't know when that's coming in. We don't know if they're going to run into problems or anything else. What I will tell you, the current traffic on these roads are horrendous when you're trying to get out, especially at 7:30 to 8 and 4 to 6 at night. McCarthy Road is a major thoroughfare that people use to get out of Casa Grande on the freeway and then coming back. It's one of the major roads. If you don't take that, you're going to be on Pinal. If you don't take Pinal, you're going to be Florence. Nobody wants to do that. I think that needs to be considered. Also agree that I think the infrastructure should be built before you start putting too many apartments. One of the major things I want to say is, I understand you're going to need apartment buildings. But what I want to preserve most on McCarthy is places for shopping centers, grocery stores, gas stations, and stuff like that, because all of us up there doesn't want to come south to shop because the traffic's just horrendous. And people from the south don't want us to come up here either. So I hope you consider that. And the only last thing I got to say that they didn't put a yellow sign out for the rezoning, and they used the developer. You should never trust developers. He touched 71 houses. This is going to affect entire neighborhoods with the traffic and stuff. I don't know why we're circumventing the yellow market. I just don't understand that. They pay for it. So I'm asking for the future, force people to put the signs up, shows that there's rezoning done, because the reason there was nobody here was because nobody knew about it. And I think we should have transparency, especially at this end. For that, I thank you.
Thank you. Well done. Anybody else like to address this issue? Great.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Ethan Boudreau, 1650 East Fontana Drive.
Thank you.
I live in this community. Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. My name's Ethan Boudreau, as I said, and I have been fortunate enough to live and work in this community for the past 16 years. I met my wife here, and 10 years ago we bought a house in McCartney Center and built our lives here. We love the area where we live, and we love the city. We chose to put our roots down here instead of urban city areas like Phoenix, Chandler, or Gilbert, because we like the small town feel. We like not having to deal with the traffic. We like not having to have long waits at restaurants. We like that we could still see the desert and that we could take our dogs for walks there. Things have begun to change in these last few years in this town. The city is growing rapidly. Other areas of the city in different parts now seem unrecognizable to the small town that we chose to live in. We keep hearing about the need for more apartment complexes, but if you drive around town, you'll see at least a half dozen. I don't know exactly how many. They're all in the process of being built. They're all unoccupied at this time. So who's to say that we need more apartment complexes right now? As someone who lives in this area of the project, I cannot see the need to put another apartment complex here in this rural area with nothing around but single-family homes. It just doesn't seem like the right spot for that type of development. Is this project really in the best interest of this community, of the city? The people who have made their homes here and have lived here for years? Is it in the best interest of the many already frustrated commuters who have to drive through this area every day to get to school or work? Is it in the best interest of the many taxpayers who feel that this city is growing too quickly without the foresight to build the roads, the intersections, the schools to handle the growth? Is it in the best interest of the current residents of this city that have put their trust in this commission to have planned responsible growth and to make this city a place that we are all happy to live and proud to call our home? Or is this project really just in the best interest of another landowner and developer trying to maximize their profits? Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good
Yes, sir.
evening.
Hi.
I'm Michael Scortino. I'm the master EVT for the city of Casa Grande. I take care of their fire trucks. 3-story apartment stories ain't fun. If you ever see one of them go up, I was on the ones that are on courts and they lit up twice. Windows that are 500 feet away from that fire. You can ask Chief Coy. We're popping out and blowing out. The need for 3 stories, You want to put something in there? You want apartments there? Put a 2-story in there. Those turns in there, you know the length of our ladder trucks, our aerial units, they'll play hell trying to drive through that. I'm telling you that right now. The other thing is, I don't know if you're familiar or from what I heard or understand, there's more apartment buildings going on the south side of McCartney Road, all the way to Pert. This is going to be a real zoo. You get, the lady said it before, Chief said it, I'm saying it. We need to knock this height thing down. The people move here because they want to see the scenery. They want to see the sunset. They want to see the sky. Putting this up in a neighborhood, I could see that on the other side of McCartney, really could, because that gives you enough buffer. I like to see more businesses come in, where it helps all these people. When Scott gets done with their community, Hillstone's right behind me. They're building another 84 single-family units over there. You know, that's what we need on McCartney. We need more business. I appreciate your time and hearing me out. And, you do what you feel is best in your heart. But when you do make your decision, think of the people who are living in that neighborhood. Thank you very much for the time.
Hang on just a second. Did you give us your address?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No problem.
No.
No problem. Just go ahead and
It's 2865 North Rosa Lane
Right.
in Casa Grande, right in McCartney Center there.
Yeah, thank you. We've got to have it for the records. No
I'm sorry,
worries,
sir.
no worries. Don't worry about that at all. Thank you. Anybody else?
Mike Bergeron, 1585 East Desert Breeze Drive. I also live in this neighborhood. And I just have 2 points. Jim, could you pull up the sign that they put out as well? This would be for the rezoning. That sign, I assume, is adequate. However, it's not the same as all other signs where there's much larger than previous places that were being rezoned.
So this sign is not the rezoning sign, it's for the major site plan.
For the major
Yeah,
site plan. Okay.
there was a larger sign in that location back in probably September when the rezoning went through.
Yeah, so this one snuck under our nose. The HOA, we're probably going to fire them if they sent you a letter saying that we agree to this. We do not. The developer claims that they went around to houses. Anyone from McCartney Center, raise your hand if you had a visit from the developer. I don't know who they were asking, but it must have been in Villago. This it's obviously already rezoned, but if we can keep the 3 stories down, 1 story at best, we would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Catherine Aiken again, 2937 North Pecan Avenue. I live in this neighborhood. I was never approached about any of this, so I've never had a chance to express my concerns or and just general opposition to having a multifamily unit, especially a 3-story multifamily unit right there. It's not okay. It's not why I bought a house there. I just moved there. I'm like your, youngish professional that you want living in Casa Grande. This is not what I moved here for. So I'm very much opposed to having this go on there. There doesn't seem to be, you say there's enough parking, but honestly, probably not. And then you don't have adequate infrastructure in terms of the roads. There's already a bunch of congestion, as everyone else there has said. It's very difficult getting in and out of the neighborhood anyway. In the morning, you're going to add 204 units, so let's say 400 people trying to get in and out of there regularly is a lot to put into this neighborhood. It's a 2-lane road, and you had mentioned that there was an extension of the road going up towards past Palomino, away from I-10, but that stops. It doesn't go all the way up to the light. You're not adequately preparing the neighborhood for this size of property that you're proposing, and you should not let this go through. This is a really bad idea, and the neighborhood the people that live there, we do not want this. Now, I don't know who showed up and said that you thought this was a great idea, or they thought it was a great idea. I am very much against this. It's going to hurt property values. It's going to really, really upset people.
Okay.
So, yeah, please do not do this. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else like to address this issue?
I'm Catherine Blaker. I'm at 1789 East Chaparral Drive. Unfortunately now, my property will not be directly overlooked by this, but I'd just like to reiterate everything that everybody else has said. Right behind me is the Circle K gas station. I'm already woken up at 4 in the morning with them coming to empty their trash cans. I don't even agree with businesses backing up onto people's houses. I can't imagine the noise, the increased heat from all the extra buildings. We don't get good air circulation through there. The traffic, of course, everybody keeps talking about. And my biggest worry now is this was supposed to be my retirement when I moved here. And I can see our house values going way, way down with all that extra traffic and just too many people in too small of a place. So I agree with everybody else. We just do not need more there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Michael Smith at 1730 East Elegante, and I just want to give my support to all the other folks who've come up here and said exactly what I would have said. This is a bad idea. It's too crowded. The traffic is bad enough already, and I don't think this was considered. The opinions of the residents in the neighborhood was not considered. I was not asked. That's enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to address this issue?
Hi, my name is Zeta Boudreau. I live at 1650 East Fontana Drive. I just want to state that I was not one of the lucky 70 houses that received any notification or was asked for my opinion. I do live close to this property. I don't know if I live within 500 feet, but I do live close enough that this will definitely affect traffic on a road. I do live right off of Palomino Parkway, and so although that is a wide road, I do think that having an apartment complex there will make it difficult for us to turn out of that area. I also think that that is way of a too small of a place to have a 3-story building. If I would have known about this meeting that that you guys had before for when it was changed, then I would have been here. But I was not aware. Also, like I said, we were not notified. So I have yet to meet any of my neighbors that have talked to the developer and have agreed with him. So just to let you know, I agree with everyone else here, and we don't want this development in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else public like to address this issue?
My name is Brian Hall. I'm at 1644 East Walter Drive in Casa Grande. We're just a few blocks from this development that's being addressed, and we moved here back in October. This is supposed to be my retirement home, and near my kids and grandkids, which they live on Chaparral. And, anybody I've talked to, in fact, my son-in-law's parents live in this area, just about a straight over from us. And, everybody I've talked to, they're not in agreement with this. So I want y'all to consider what a lot of these people pointed out, that they had some very good points, and I think y'all need to seriously consider it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public like to address this issue? Okay. Seeing nobody else, I'll close the public portion of the meeting. Commissioners?
It's tough.
So the applicant looked like he wanted to address some things. Come on up, we might have some questions for you also.
Just a couple pieces of clarification. We didn't go into the neighborhood, but that was done before the zoning hearing. I mean, this is not the zoning hearing, and we presented the same site plan that you see before you then, and when it was approved by Planning Commission and City Council. One of the reasons that we are putting the amount of setback from that northern neighborhood is because of the discussions that we had with that neighborhood. Not only the 25 feet of landscaping, but 95 feet when 50 feet is only required. And then Palomino is a huge separation between the neighborhood to the west. The improvements that Jim went over, which are substantial to the streets, are going to be done at the time of construction. That will have a substantial effect on the existing and future traffic, and will be a substantial improvement to the opportunities for the city. By the way, the traffic light will also be put in prior to the C of O, and so you will have the opportunity for that as well. And these are specific clarifications I wanted to make. I didn't want to address, do you want multifamily, do you not want multifamily? I think that the city has its own goals, and they're trying to make adjustments to what the opportunities are and what the needs are going to be for the future. And I'm not going to get into that argument. That's a public policy thing that you all have to deal with. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for him while we got him up here? Okay, thanks. Appreciate it.
This is tough. I can see their concerns. I mean, because we do have a couple apartment complexes that are coming up. The one on Trickle and Courtson, and it's 3 stories, and they are very high. I do agree.
But on the same hand, I think every apartment complex built from now on is going to be 3, every
That's-
city in the United States. I mean, if you look
yeah.
around, they're all 3, it's just the way it is.
No,
I think that's what you see, though. If you look at Maricopa, if you look at other cities, look at Chandler, Gilbert, any city, you see through.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
just a question, a visualization. The 98 feet, can you equate that to how big that, how far that would be? Like a football field?
Yeah. A third of it.
Football field is 300 feet?
Yeah.
A third.
A third of it?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get a visualization of it.
And you have landscaping in between.
And then you have
And the
landscaping,
landscaping.
so I have that.
25 foot high.
What was that?
How tall is the planned landscaping?
30.
Do you know the planting that's planned?
Oh, the applicant may be able to answer that on the landscape plan. We'll look at that to see what's shown. So there are trees. I would have to look at what species they are.
Yeah, it's just.
As identified on the plan, but they typically are.
And how tall is the 3 feet, how tall are they gonna be? Is it like
30
35
35.
feet? And how tall is the 2-story? 25?
20, yeah.
Okay.
And our current guidelines allow the 36.
No, that's what I remember, but
So-
I'm just trying to
Visualize it?
visualize it, that's
Yep.
all.
James, can you review quickly the traffic improvements, I guess would be the way to say it, that you had presented?
Sure.
Just remind me, I apologize.
So I will go back to this photo. So as you know, half-street improvements are usually done abutting an area of property under development.
Right.
However, that's not always true. Sometimes it's an area abutting development and then some, if it's determined that the amount of traffic that is being put on the roadway by that area under development is going to be so much so that it requires improvements above and beyond that which is just adjacent to their site. But in this case, as you're looking west, even though you see just one lane in each direction, there's actually enough asphalt along McCartney for additional lanes of traffic. That's where all the semis are parked in that photo. Because there's the asphalt for it, but it's not striped. And the reason why it's not striped is because she's correct. If you continue to go west, that asphalt ends, it tapers back, because it tapers back to truly enough asphalt for 2 lanes where it's adjacent to no development. And it widens again once you cross an area with development. We have a lot of scalloped streets. So that would more or less be the case here, in all honesty, where at the time that this site goes to develop, they would add asphalt adjacent to their site.
Right.
But fortunately, their site is wide enough along McCartney that there's the ability to provide a dedicated right turn lane with a lot of storage to go on to northbound Palomino. And then there's enough asphalt to the west of Palomino that they can restripe to provide a dedicated left turn lane to go northbound onto Palomino. Now, apart from all of that, and apart from kind of that oddity of scalloped streets, the good news is that the city does have a capital improvement project planned, and it is funded, and it's in the design stages right now to make improvements to McCartney from I-10 to Pinnell. It'll be 2 lanes in each direction. I'm not exactly sure what all the plans are going to entail beyond that. There's probably going to be curbing added, sidewalks added in certain cases, turn lanes, etc. But those improvements are going to be made, but in the interim, because this is likely to be erected prior to when the city is going in and making their improvements, what you see is kind of an interim condition here. They're adding enough asphalt for 2 lanes to go eastbound, but they can't stripe it for that because one of those eastbound lanes would run into nothing. So, that there's going to be asphalt there, so that when the city goes ahead and completes their other improvements to the east and west of the site, it'll be restriped to have 2 lanes in each direction and a center median.
Thank you.
So there's no timing. I mean, last year, voters approved the bond, right, that's going to fund the McCartney Road improvements. I think that was mentioned at the State of the City earlier this week. There's no timing for, it's in design, but there's no goal for construction start?
We'd probably have to ask our traffic engineer that question.
Hi, Manir.
Yes, we have timeline for construction, but let me update you on the design. We have received 15% design. We have reviewed it, and now it is in 30% level. And we expect to complete the design by end of this year, calendar year. For construction, we are expecting from the beginning of next calendar year.
Oh,
Around,
not too far away.
at this time, the estimated duration is 200 days to complete.
That's,
Of course, subjected to funding adequacy. We have the fund, but when we go to construction, it can be a little bit different.
good news.
Anything else?
Nope, thank you.
Sure.
Oh, I had one more question.
Yep.
Jim, the fire marshal approves the major site plan, right? And that's approved before it comes to us, or does that get approved after?
So the fire marshal was on the review of these plans, and it went through a couple of different cycles of review. I'm not sure at what review cycle he approved it, but ultimately there were adjustments made to the layout to where it was approved by the fire marshal.
Thank you.
Commissioner, if
Yes.
I, can I
Yes.
add a little bit? Yes, also the Trickle Road is also under design and going in the full speed. So when Trickle Road improvement from Rodeo to McCartney happens, this will improve the overall traffic on McCartney significantly. And the next phase is Trickle Road from McCartney to Val Vista. That is also planned in the next few years. So overall, the traffic scenario will be improved significantly in this corridor.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
I know, right?
Okay.
I don't know about this.
I do. Well, commissioners, so it's always a tough call about, because you don't expand a road if there's not the folks to do it. And one of the things that we've been able to do is as these developments come to us, to get them to contribute their portion and to help with expanding and improving, roadways and other services. And so it's frustrating to think about adding that kind of a load to a situation that is already frustrating. But it's also an appropriate and way to get those improvements paid for is those new developments, help pay for those improvements. And so it's a hard and difficult stretch for as we go along. That's my big political speech for the night. I'm done. I'm not saying it. Well, I'll say something else, but it won't. Yeah, I'll get off my soapbox now. Commissioners?
Just one more question for staff.
Please.
On the opposite corner of Palomino and McCartney is Marbella. Jim, and do we know what stage that development is in?
Commissioner Peters, they are in their final platting stage. They received approval by City Council, and for everyone's information, Marabella is directly to the south. Palomino extends south of McCartney and continues at a southeasterly angle through the Marabella development. But it's a, I believe, 206 lot single-family home subdivision and then a 25-acre medium-density residential area. But they did have their final plat approved, but we're waiting on the bond for the infrastructure to be received before we can record that final plat.
So that will add to the improvements out there at that intersection also.
Correct, yes, because they'll be making McCartney Road improvements on the south of the center line and then additional widening, et cetera.
Okay. Thank you, Jim.
I'd like to make a motion.
Thank you, sir.
Jim, could I get the slide? I did. I got it here, but it's easier.
I'm with you on that, but
I'd like to recommend that the planning commission move to approve DSA -23-00251, the major site plan for flats 387, subject to the following conditions set by staff.
and that is the condition as presented it. That's good.
Correct.
Okay, so I have a motion to approve,
Second.
and motion and a second to approve. Ready? Any discussion?
No?
Okay. All right, seeing none, please call the roll.
Member Aldred?
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden?
Yes.
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Member Estrada?
Yes.
Vice Chair Garza?
Aye.
Chairman Benedict?
Yep, like I said, it's a difficult decision. They've done a good job with their presentations and plans to move ahead. And I'd sure like to see the improvements on those roads, and I'm believing that this is gonna help us. So I'll vote aye. Oh, dang it, I did get back on. Pass.
All right. Recommend that the planning commission move to approve DSA-23-00257, the landscape plan for flats 387.
I have a motion.
Second.
Second. Thank you. Motion and second. Any discussion on the motion? Please call the roll.
Member Aldred?
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden?
Yes.
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Member Estrada?
Yes.
Vice Chair Garza?
Aye.
Chairman Benedict?
Yes. Thank you, guys. Good plan. Appreciate your adjustments to the plan and efforts there. Okay.
Can I make a motion to take a 5-minute break?
No, you can't make a motion. I'm
Motion to
going
recess?
We've gone over my allotted time. We'll take a 5-minute break.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next on our agenda, we'll have a public hearing, consider request from Brian Greathouse Birch and the really hard name, DSA 23000164 for a zone change and DSA 23000165 for a master plan. It's still the James Show.
Okay. So I, for the record, I don't want the Knowles to think I have a vendetta against them, but I think the last time they were here for a case, it was at the very end of the meeting. And I promise I did not do that intentionally. But you just get to be entertained is all I can say. So this request in front of you this evening pertains to two applications. There is a zone change in front of you for a recommendation to City Council to create the Quick Trip Planned Area Development Zone. And then you're also being asked to consider a major site plan, which of course would be subject to the approval of the PAD zone by City Council. So the location of the site, it's at the southeast corner of McCartney and Tucker, so just a little bit east of the last case that we were covering this evening. And here's an excerpt of the site plan. And with the PAD, they also provided a conceptual rendering because they know that the intention behind this PAD zone is to build a quick trip. So even on their preliminary development plan as part of the PAD guide, they provided a conceptual layout that the major site plan more or less matches. But I'm going to walk through some elements of this proposal with you here. So it's 5.76 acres in size, and they're proposing a 7,300 square feet convenience store. And then to the east of the store is a 7,280 square foot fuel canopy. And then to the south of the store, they're planning a 4,200 square feet diesel canopy for trucks. It would be to the rear of the building. And the heights contained within this area is 20 feet for the building and then 24 feet for the canopies. They are proposing 69 parking spaces where 49 are required. With this PAD, they are showing the extension of Tucker Road south of McCartney. It would be an 80-foot wide right-of-way dedication, and they are proposing right-of-way improvements to carry the traffic into the site on Tucker south of McCartney. They are also planning to dedicate 60 feet of right-of-way for a new road going east and west directly south of the site. And this would help provide future access opportunities for any development that happens to the south of this site or to the east of this site. So as I mentioned, there's two applications that are under your consideration this evening. I want to talk about the PAD application first. And because we're reviewing both the PAD and the major site plan, they have very similar review criteria. So what I'm doing is I'm just focusing on the review criteria that's truly the most unique to the PAD, and then when I go over to the major site plan, I'm going to be talking about the review criteria that's really the most applicable to that. So the first thing I want to talk about is the conformance with the city's general plan. This site does sit within the commerce and business general plan land use area. Within the commerce and business general plan area, it does promote and support highway commercial type uses. So not just gas stations, but also fast food restaurants, drive-throughs, etc. So it is considered appropriate given its proximity to I-10. And if you notice, there is commerce and business designation to the north and south of the site, and a little bit to the west. However, the bulk of the property between it and Marabella is within the neighborhood's general plan. So development at this location within that undeveloped neighborhoods part will probably serve as a transition, some sort of use that's probably not as intense as a gas station as you have a gas station to the east and then single family to the west. So one of the other criteria is that the action is consistent with the city's general plan, including the following goals, policies, and applicable elements. So one goal that this speaks to is create visibility without compromising attractive streetscapes or community character. This proposal is to include a 3-foot screen wall along all the rights of way, both McCartney, Tucker, and along the south boundary that's going to be paralleling the right of way to the south of the site. And then one of the action steps is site auto-oriented businesses to appropriate locations along interstates and or select arterial corridors. This is both near an interchange with I-10 and along McCartney, which is a principal arterial. The other criteria that I want to talk about is conformance to the city's zoning ordinance. So as a PAD zone, this development can propose customized uses and development standards, provided that the uses and development standards proposed meet with agreement of city staff, planning commission, and city council. So within this PAD, they are proposing uses that are permitted by right within the B2 zone, except they are also requesting that a convenience store with fueling be a use by right, where ordinarily that would require a conditional use permit. And they are also providing 7 diesel pumps, which would ordinarily not be permitted in the B2, but it is narrowly tailored to allow that within this PAD as part of this convenience store gas station. There is a recommended condition associated with the PAD, and that is that the property owner shall dedicate the necessary right-of-way should the city need it. Ordinarily, we wouldn't really be able to get right-of-way dedication until there was a building permit, but at the time of zoning, we can recommend a condition such as this to allow us to acquire right-of-way for McCartney sooner if necessary. So now I want to talk more about the major site plan than the PAD itself, because the PAD is establishing the use, but the major site plan is going to show you how they intend to develop this use on the site. So the specific highlighted criteria is what I want to focus on. So the relationship of the plan elements to condition both on and off the property. So firstly, I do want to mention that to the north of the site is commercially designated land, as is the case to the east of the site. You do have multifamily to the southeast. But then to the west and south of the site is urban ranch zoned property. That property is likely not long for urban ranch. It's along McCartney. There's probably development potential that is greater than what urban ranch would ordinarily allow, which is 1 dwelling per acre and a quarter parcels. Some possible uses that could eventually be proposed in this area are probably hotels, fast food restaurants, although I know a lot of people would like to see some other kind of restaurant other than fast food, but given the location to the interchange, that is a likely request anyway. So there's a lot of potential along this corridor. A quick trip at this location with the fueling arrangement as proposed is appropriate, given that catty corner here is another fuel station, and you have commercial uses planned for the north and east. Also, as I mentioned, they are planning to extend Tucker to the south and then right-of-way for a future road to go west to east south of the site. That's going to be a great opportunity because as sites surrounding that area develop, this is providing a way for those properties to get access to Tucker. Traffic and vehicular ingress and egress is probably the most critical topic with this major site plan. And I do want to say that there was a traffic impact analysis provided for review by the city traffic engineer, and the findings of that TIA did show that a traffic signal would be needed at Tucker and McCartney. That intersection would be failing. Just as I discussed with the Flats project, this applicant does have the potential to potentially seek impact fee offsets if they're able to demonstrate that some of the need for that traffic signal is not solely prompted by them. And we could look at giving them a credit towards their impact fees owed. However, what was also looked at with all things traffic is the site is proposing 2 access points off of Tucker. There's that northerly driveway on Tucker is probably more for the passenger vehicles, and then that southerly driveway would be for larger trucks to access the fueling to the rear of the building. And then they're proposing a drive access to the east directly onto McCartney that's identified in the red circle. So with that arrangement, they would be required to provide a dedicated right turn lane on eastbound McCartney to turn onto southbound Tucker, and then they would be required to provide a dedicated right turn lane into that access drive to the east. The way the site plan is currently laid out, it proposes a 30-foot wide access drive, 15 feet of which is on the adjacent property to the east. And then Quick Trip has 15 feet of this access drive. So it's shared with the property to the east. But in order to share it with that property owner, there was an expectation of the property owner to the east to have a left in, because it allows that property to the east to be more directly accessed. Keep in mind, this is already pretty close to I-10. That property to the east is even closer. It has very limited opportunity for a lot of access drives as you get closer to the interchange. And so this left in would be beneficial for the easterly property owner, probably more so than for Quick Trip itself. But what is proposed here then with that left turn in is a 3/4 turn. So the city traffic engineer has not yet approved this TIA. The primary concern in his review is the allowance for that 3/4 intersection at that eastern driveway. The driveway does not meet traditional spacing requirements from the intersection, but a right-in, right-out driveway would be adequate. But for a 3/4 intersection, which would be right-in, right-out, and left-ins, the city traffic engineer has asked for a letter of understanding from that adjacent property owner that this will be their only primary access, and this access would be shared with QT. If they want to have full access, it would need to come from Tucker, where the traffic signal is. Tucker is where the traffic signal will be, and it is located a 1/4 mile from the interchange. And that's pretty much the tolerance that ADOT will allow for full access. Sometimes they allow a little bit closer, but a 1/4 mile is ideal. So for any site east of this subject site, they'll need to rely on Tucker for full access. But by allowing a left in will be an opportunity for this site to at least have a drive access directly off, coming from the interstate into their site, a little bit closer than going all the way to Tucker Road. And then, of course, should development occur on the site to the east or to the south of this Quick Trip site, that developer will have the opportunity to make improvements to that east-west road to access Tucker up to the traffic signal. QT isn't asked to make improvements to that east-west section of the road because they're not planning any access points onto that drive, and they are proposing to dedicate the full 60 feet of right-of-way. So ultimately, when it gets improved, the right-of-way will for sure be available there for any connection needed or from property to the south or to the east. As far as the public notification process, we met, which was required by code. We did not receive any inquiries or comments as a result of this notification. I stand corrected. I did hear from one of the commissioners who did have concern about the truck traffic being created, the truck fueling, and didn't find it appropriate. I think we'll have more discussion about that during the question and answers. However, staff was okay with the arrangement of the site plan with regard to the truck fueling. So with regard to our recommendations, staff does recommend that Planning Commission move to forward a recommendation to City Council to approve the PAD, subject to the condition regarding right-of-way dedication. Then with regard to the major site plan, we are recommending that you approve the major site plan, but it's subject to a couple of conditions, and one was added that the applicant was not aware of. So you do have an opportunity to speak to this if you'd like, but it's really just kind of more elaboration based on what was already shown on the plan. So the first condition is that the traffic impact analysis associated with this development is to be approved by the city traffic engineer. The second condition is what's new, which is prior to the issuance of building permit, the applicant shall dedicate the following public rights of way. So we are stating that 70 is needed for McCartney, 80 for Tucker, and 60 for the east-west road south of the property. And then the third condition, which they're also already aware of, is the construction of a traffic signal at Tucker and McCartney shall be installed and operational prior to the C of O. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, commissioners, questions for staff?
No. Those guys.
No? Okay. Okay, would the applicant or their representative like to come forward and address the commission, please?
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Daniel Chambers. I work for Quick Trip Corporation. I'm the real estate project manager for this site. I address out of 1116 East Broadway Road in Tempe, Arizona. I want to thank Jim for his very thorough presentation and staff for working with us on this. We're very excited to be coming to the community. We're looking forward to opening a new store here. I'm here if you have any questions or want to know anything in greater detail. I'll be here to answer any questions, but thank you very much for your consideration.
I've got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
On the truck traffic coming in, those are the 2 points on Tucker, and we're bringing 53 footers in there, and they're going to have to turn around to get back out?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So that bottom entrance there is intended to be for the over-the-road trucks. The front drive is intended to be for the passenger vehicles, as Jim said. We like to separate those two just because it's a safety thing. But the way our site is designed, and if you look at the dimensions of it, it's a little misleading on a big screen like this. But the dimensions are very large, and we run an auto churn, truck churn simulation on all of our sites. And when you look at our site compared to some other sites, you'll notice that there is a very large amount of dimension so that the trucks and even a fire truck would be able to very easily maneuver through the site.
So will they will pull in and turn around and fuel, or pull
No,
in,
they'll be able
fuel,
to-
and then turn around?
No, they'll be able to pull in, get fuel, and then pull out. See where the yellow drive is right there?
Oh, we are
They'll
gonna-
be able to pull out and make a right back out on McCartney. So we designed the site to try to be very circular so that there wouldn't be U-turns on the site. But if that is needed, there is enough room for that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
So the left in at the yellow line isn't intended for truck traffic, right?
No, I don't think truckers will want to make that turn. That would be a lot more difficult.
Than using the signal.
Yeah, correct. And that left in kind of came a little bit later. We didn't think we were going to do that, but working with the city and working with the adjacent owners, how that left in came about. So
Makes sense, yeah.
Do we know how many truckers a day would be coming into the site?
it's going to depend on just if people want to stop at the Quick Trip or not. But
I mean, those are big trucks, this area. Do you have other areas, other Quick Trips that have trucking availability?
Yeah, we do. We have one that's a little bit further south in Tucson. There's a
That one's really busy, the one in Tucson. Yeah.
That is. So we were trying to capture, because some of those truckers don't want to stop in Tucson or Phoenix. A lot of them do, and how they plan out their route. But we're just trying to capture some of the more independent drivers and operators and owners here. So.
Okay.
That overpass
Right.
to me is pretty skinny for that.
And also, there is no long-term facilities here for truckers, so it's not intended, just so you guys are aware, there's no lounges or washing machines or showers or anything like that in this facility.
Gas and go.
Correct. And maybe some food. You should try the grilled cheese, it's delicious. It'll change your life.
Love it.
Thank you.
Every chance you got.
You guys
Yes.
do really well in Casa Grande. This will be the third one in town, right?
Yes, I'm very excited. So I'm personally very excited. This is one of the first projects that I signed up and managing the entitlements on. So I'm really excited, have a lot of vested interest in it. I helped with the construction of the other one on Florence. So I've spent a lot of time in this town and really come to enjoy it, and looking forward, and hopefully we can have another one here.
It's a great store. Clean restrooms, friendly staff.
Yep. A good addition.
But you're going to ruin my commute to work. But it's okay.
Here we go. Any
Thank
other
you.
questions for?
No, I think we're good.
Yep, thanks.
Stay long term.
Okay. So I'll open the public portion of the meeting. Anybody from the public like to address this issue, please come forward. Give us your name and address for the record.
Catherine Aiken, 2937 North Pecan Avenue in Casa Grande. Yeah, this is a terrible idea. The overpass can't handle that. Like, it's not designed for it, like you mentioned. The truck traffic, the proximity to like where I live, I don't want semis coming in there like all hours of the night. That's not okay. You haven't addressed at all like what any kind of environmental impact that would bring on. You're already bringing in how many, like 1,000 plus at least people that you're proposing to put into areas around this area. There's already not enough water, and then you're going to put in a potential site for contamination. Like, have you looked at environmental impacts of gas station and the tanks leaking into the groundwater, which you're already relying on to provide water for more people than it can handle? Like, have you? I don't know if anyone's considered that. The improvements to the road that you're proposing there isn't going to address the highway for trucks getting off of the highway and then getting back on the highway. That's not going to do anything. Like, sweet, you're widening that one section of the road. That doesn't help to actually get the trucks in there and out. You're proposing to have an additional light. How many lights? You're going to have 3 lights from I-10 to that intersection there for Peart. 3 lights. That's ridiculous. That's seriously ridiculous. And it seems like what you guys are doing is just like accepting contracts and bids so that you can have road improvements done for small sections of space. And it doesn't make any sense what you're doing. So I think this is a really bad idea. And I don't hear any address to concerns like that I've brought up, So I think you guys really need to reconsider, respectfully, please reconsider what you're doing here, and like why you're doing these things, because it's not making the place where I live better. It's making it worse. It's like without foresight or it's just not a good idea.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public like to address this issue?
Brother Catherine for the evening. Catherine Blaker at 1789 East Chaparral. Again, with the noise, the pollution, the stench from that, truckers coming and going all hours of the day and night. As the crow flies, people are living right there. We have a lot of open space in Casa Grande. You seem determined to fill every inch of it. Move truck stops further away from where people live. It's beyond the traffic. It's just not right to have to deal with that so close to your own home. Maybe you can't imagine that because it's not happening to your neighborhood, but you're totally taking away from everything that neighborhood enjoyed about being a little bit outside of town, a little bit away from everybody else. That's sort of why we moved there, because we don't want to be in the middle of everything. If it has to be built up, try to think of the impact whatever you're putting in will have on the people that are already living there. Kind of the same sort of things that Karen was talking, or Catherine, the other Catherine was talking about. You're taking our quality of life down, and you're reducing the value of our homes as well. Because if I was looking at that place now, knowing all this was going in, there's no way I would give you anything for any of those houses in McCartney. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public like to address this issue? Seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting. Bring it back to the commissioners. Yep.
We're going to put that on. I think there are compatibility issues with the truck stop in this area. We know Marabella, it's in final plat, 206 more single-family units. McCartney Center, the PAD we approved a few months back, just east of the site, has multifamily in it. The commercial area north of the site within the McCartney Center PAD, we heard an amendment to that PAD to change some of that commercial to residential, which we just approved a site plan for. And there's two other vacant lots within the McCartney Center PAD that are slated for high-density residential. So I could definitely see that commercial area within the McCartney Center PAD going further amendments for more residential, just because I know commercial is not a hot land use at the moment, especially since COVID. So the amount of residential in this area, I don't think a truck stop is appropriate to put in the middle of all of that, especially when, I don't know if you guys have visited the Quick Trip site in Ina Road in Tucson that is a truck stop. It is quite busy, and I don't want to malign Quick Trip Corporation, but when I went there a couple times over the past couple weeks, what I've seen on that site is chaos, and parking on their empty lot next to that site of up to 10 trucks. I think it was 7 PM at night I went over there. And so just what this would invite into this area that is much more residential than that Ina Road location, which is surrounded by Town of Marana's Public Works Yard, a Harley Davidson dealership, Tank's Green Stuff, which is a giant composting yard, waste management. It's a much more industrial area, and that's appropriate for that truck stop. This area, I don't think the truck stop portion of this Quick Trip is appropriate. I would see it more appropriate down towards our industrial and agricultural area off of I-8, but not necessarily here. And that's, I don't think the truck stop portion, the actual Quick Trip, if you want to do a regular gas station, I think that's typical neighborhood commercial that gets approved in most places. But the truck stop portion itself, I don't think is appropriate.
So does that one on Ina have showers?
No, I believe it's just
So
scales.
technically, I don't think it's a truck stop. I think the trucks you're gonna see coming in there are gonna be mostly bobtails, because the truckers usually like to go into a full-blown truck stop that's got the full services. So I don't think you're gonna see a bunch of semis lining up to go into that one. Some you might, but I think it's the smaller diesel truck, I'm guessing.
We already have truckers already.
Huh?
We already have truckers.
Yeah, I mean,
On-
I don't know
they
why
are
they would
parked.
bypass right there to stop here when it
No,
is
no,
a
no,
little
no, I
narrow.
mean, we already have truckers on McCartney,
Oh,
just
yeah.
parked there.
Oh, yeah, because they go to Fry's. Yeah.
Right, so you're just
I think they
adding
live
more.
there.
They pretty much do. I just think we're adding more onto this road, and then you're gonna, and the overpass from I-10 just going, it's not set up. I don't understand why we would have a truck stop in the middle of, a multifamily area. I don't see it at all.
So
Okay,
I
go ahead.
think the I-10 widening project is going to solve the McCartney overpass problem, which I was looking for the video because they've flown all the future improvements, and this interchange is going to change dramatically with that situation. They have to widen the bridge. They're going to widen it for
Sure.
the full section,
Yeah.
the 5 to 7 lanes,
Certainly,
whatever
that's
the.
gonna happen at some point, right?
Yeah, should start soon. 2025 and be open in 2027, right?
Okay. Commissioners, any other?
I guess I kind of want to ask the applicant, is there going to be some regulation whether they're parking there long-term, overnight? Is somebody going to be monitoring
Yeah,
that?
no, great question. We don't allow the overnight parking. That's not something that we want. The intention of what we're trying to do is go after the independent trucker. We don't have any large fleet accounts like Love's or Flying J, so we don't have any large trucking fleet accounts. We want to get the independent trucker to come in. They want to come in, they want to gas up, they want to maybe get some food, and they want to get back out.
Can you also speak to some of the environmental compliance that you have to do with
Yeah,
installing
no.
a gas station?
Excellent, thank
That's a great question. So we take a lot of pride in what we do in terms of our fuel system and what we have to go through for environmental compliance. So all the Quick Trip facilities have to go through a rigorous review with the state. It is controlled by the state. We have to go through all of the ADEQ, the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality compliances. One of the things that is very unique about how Quick Trip designs our stations is all the pipe. Anytime you have two pipes put together and you have a joint, you have a potential for a leak. So everything is designed to go from one filling MPD multi-product dispenser to the other, and there's no breaks in the line at all. And then wherever there is a joint, it's in a double fiberglass sump, and there's a brine in between it, and they're filled with pressure sensors as well as other sensors. So it'll detect if the leak, it detects, I think it's a half a pound of pressure change in there. All the fuel tanks are all double-walled fiberglass that have a brine inside of them and also have filled with sensors. We constantly have a system that monitors and checks to make sure that there is no leaks. It's always back pressure in the system to check for leaks and make sure that there is no leaks. You can look us up. We have a very good track record of not having leaky facilities. We maintain all of our facilities very well so that we don't have that problem. All the Quick Trip techs that you see are all Quick Trip employees that are out there maintaining the fuel system as well as the site. So that's one of the big ways that we can avoid maintenance solves a lot of future problems. So that's why we spend a lot of time and a lot of money into maintenance on all of our facilities. Also, the traffic that's been brought up, and that is something that we did look very closely at because that is a concern. The RTIA has been reviewed and approved by ADOT as well as been reviewed. It's not quite approved by the city, but I believe that we are right there able to approve it. I think we have all the comments addressed at this point. So it's been reviewed by multiple people and multiple agencies, excuse me.
Okay. Anything else, commissioners? So, kind of along Chris's earlier idea. So, help me envision. Can anybody tell me along Florence about how far a quarter mile brings it out Florence? And how far away is it from the freeway? Anybody got there?
Right across from the Circle K, right? Isn't that where it's going?
No,
Yeah,
it's
there on McCartney.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of dead space, right? So on
So
Florence.
is this Circle?
No.
What's this?
Yep, that's the Circle K.
Oh, that is Circle K.
Right?
And
That's
so it's
Circle
kinda
K
cool.
right there.
Yeah.
So, there you go.
It's probably
come
where
out to
the hotel is,
Comes out to that first hotel.
where the push button crosswalk is.
Yep.
It's probably close.
Okay, that's what I was thinking about.
Gotcha.
about what-
Okay, thank you.
Trying to imagine that distance. And of course, along the freeway, for some distance, we're going to have to put in the sites like this. We certainly can't put in, nobody was going to want to live that close. I shouldn't say nobody, but there's that need to use that. In fact, we planned for that kind of use. I am, and then on the other hand is, as Garrett spoke about, that we're starting to make this is going to be the beginning of bringing in trucks into an area that is highly residential, just down the road, just a little bit. So it's a little bit of a challenge for my mind as far as that
100%.
that goes. In the future, who knows what will be there, but anyway, that's my challenges. I got on the soapbox again. You let me do that.
It's a long night.
It's a long night, yes, sir.
If it was just a regular QT,
Oh.
I love QT.
Yep, be pretty.
It would be nuts.
So commerce and business does allow for light industrial?
It does,
Okay, which is the zoning they're in,
right.
which is all along. You have some industrial sites that we recently, I think, worked on near Florence, too, with some sort of industrial.
What's that? No, you can make the motion.
No,
with a
what's
condition.
your question?
I would just like to make a motion to add truck fueling as a prohibited use to the zone.
Yeah, if you want to do that, I would make it, I would request that you make a motion to, if what I hear you saying, to approve this with additional condition, however you.
Right. Okay, so then I would like to make a motion to forward a recommendation to City Council to approve DSA 2300164, subject to the following condition, and the condition to prohibit truck fueling.
Okay. Is that adequate for the legally? Yep.
I'll second it.
Do I have a second?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. We have a motion and a second.
Member Aldred?
Hang on, just a second. Let me be sure we don't have any discussion. I'm sorry. I gave you the wink, I know, I'm sorry. I'm taking my wink back, girl.
Wink's taken away.
So, any discussion from commissioners about that motion? Your senses about it?
I'm not sure exactly what it was, 100%.
It's just taking the trucking
Oh,
out.
all right.
Okay. Now the staff is over there discussing it. So,
How do you
yes,
take trucking away from diesel? It's two different things. A lot of cars have diesel too. I mean, you can't,
I think.
what do you say, a truck 35 feet can't go in there? I mean, I'm not sure what you're gonna.
Well, I mean, trucks currently use the Circle K with diesel
Sure they
pumps.
do.
So this would still have diesel pumps, I'm assuming, if you didn't have truck fueling
Right.
to your
And then-
normal.
And then they got a little bit bigger space for the little bigger trucks that, like your 25 footers, 30 footers. You know, so, okay.
I think we're also
Yes,
missing,
go ahead.
we're missing a population too of, trailers and horse trailers and, those folks, just your regular folks that need
Which
tho-
would go in
need
there.
those
Which
long
would go in
days.
there.
They're gonna go in
Absolutely,
there whether
absolutely. They
it's-
would go in there. Sure they would.
okay. Any other,
So with your motion, would that have restrictions to that condition? Would there be just absolutely no truck fueling?
Yeah, so the truck fueling would be not possible to do on the site. So
All trucks, even F-150?
well, just the canopies, the scales.
That's what we're
Well,
saying.
that's what I'm saying. Restriction
Tractor trailers.
So-
yes, yes,
Mr.
Paul?
Mayor, look, if this motion passes, how staff would implement it is we would eliminate the semi-fueling area from this drawing.
Yeah.
There still would be diesel pumps at the normal pumps
Right.
for, motor homes, small trucks, cars. We would just eliminate the semi-truck fueling area. That, I believe, is the intent.
Yes.
Exactly, yeah.
That's kind of why I was asking the attorney if there's a better way to say it, because I don't know, because it's going to be, all of those questions that go through my mind is, the unintended consequences of some of the things that we pass can be interesting, so. Does that take care of your,
Yes, that
Okay.
answers my.
your concern? Well, take care of it, but, okay, anything else? Any other discussion about the motion? No. Okay? All right, please call the roll.
Member Aldred?
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden?
No.
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Peters?
Nay.
Member Estrada?
No.
Vice Chairman Garza?
No.
Chairman Benedict?
Yes. So, the motion
Dies.
failed. Okay? So where do you go from here, attorney?
Make a new motion?
Yep. We need a motion for something on this.
I'll make a
Deny it or
motion.
approve it, or,
Can we get back to the slide with the motion?
yep. What was the question?
He's going to make a
I'm
motion.
just gonna make a motion.
Oh, beautiful.
I'm gonna recommend that the zone change from DSA 223-00164 from UR to Quick Trip Pad with the stipulation on the traffic analysis and the construction of the signal.
Okay?
Second?
Okay, I have a motion and a second to forward a positive recommendation for the zone change. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, hearing none, please call the roll.
Member Aldred?
Nay.
Member Vanderhayden?
Yes?
Member Hubbard?
No.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Member Estrada?
Yes.
Vice Chair Garza?
Aye.
Chairman Benedict?
The zone change, yes. Okay, we have another Now we're back to the major site
Oh, I
plan.
went too ahead of time. Yeah. I'll make a recommendation.
Jim,
Sorry.
do you want to mention?
Make a motion, please.
I want to recommend that we forward
Oh, hang
the,
on, hang on just one second.
Chairman, can I make a slight modification to
can-
what you see
You can say
presented here?
anything you'd like, but
So ordinarily, when major site plans are tied to the zoning request and being heard by planning commission at the same time, we do stipulate that this ultimately could only be approved assuming that council approves of the PAD. So I didn't expressly state that here, but that would need to be added as part of the condition, so it's basically, if you do move to approve the major site plan in any way, it would have to be subject to city council's approval of the PAD.
As a fourth condition.
okay,
And I have language if you guys want it.
sure.
So basically, it'll say site plan approval is subject to the approval of the rezoning to PAD in DSA 23-00164.
Okay. You got that? If somebody got that, because I won't be able to repeat it in the motion, but we got it.
okay.
Okay. Okay, major site plan, which was kind of your motion, but now it's,
So I'll recommend the
Okay.
DSA 23-00165 for a major site plan for Quick Trip, subject to what we said.
1 through 4.
1 through, right.
Yep, 1 through
Conditions
4.
up above and the fourth
1 through 4.
condition, okay? Okay,
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. Any discussion about the motion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Member Aldrat?
Nay.
Member Vanderhayden?
Yes?
Member Hubbard?
No.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Member Estrada?
Yes.
Vice Chair Garza?
Aye.
And Chairman Benedict.
I don't like that much truck, well, it doesn't matter. No. So, passes,
Yeah, still passes.
yes? We're good?
Yeah, 4-0.
All right,
4-3, yeah.
thank you. Okay, on next, reports from the planner, planning director.
Okay, let's see what we have here. No administrative approvals. We did have a couple Board of Adjustment decisions. A variance was approved for a large accessory structure, rear yard setback. We had a lot exception, which you approved the conditional use for tonight, a comp sign plan, and a temporary use for Ritchie Brothers to start using their site. So you'll see Ritchie Brothers start actually using their site at the juncture of the 8 and 10. City Council was busy with a lot of your recommendations. They approved the Roping Ridge annexation. They adopted the minor amendment to the general plan for a portion of the annexation. They approved the PAD for your Purely Point, I think, right? PAD. Let's see, they adopted a minor amendment to the general plan for, Mr. Henry Taylor's property. And they actually approved on appeal, review, Mr. Taylor, is it Taylor? Tyler. He asked for a council review of your decision to deny his zoning. Remember, you denied his R1 zoning. Council did approve that zoning on review. Then we approved Lawrence Street rezoning. And then lastly, council did also hold an administrative review of your denial of the West States apartment complex in G Diamond. In that case, they did vote to deny that major site plan as well. So, we're betting 500 with council on that one, looks like. And so on reports, you got the reports on the building permit data. And so, just to reflect on that just a little bit, you can see multifamily units, 0 permitted yet this year, right? So we're through the first quarter of the year and 0 multifamily permits, which shows us that, the stuff that's being built now will start to be completed and absorbed, and is, depending on how that does in the marketplace, then you may or may not see more multifamily projects getting permitted. And the same thing for build to rent. You see, there's no build to rent. Many of those apartment complexes and those build to rent projects are nearing completion and will be entering the marketing rental phase very soon. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens with those, and that will affect our permitting activity.
It will.
The ones on Burt and Cottonwood, they just put up the sign.
Did they?
Okay, so that's my report.
And, okay, gotcha, okay. Anything else for the good of the order?
Motion to adjourn.
We are adjourned.